Welcome to Alabama Tractor Pickers. As you can see, we've got a couple of new projects in the shop. You saw my first video. I bought these two Farmall tractors. Well, they're both International Harvester. One's a Farmall 140, the other is an International 140. We've got our work cut out for us and seeing what we've got. So you look around, I've got plenty of projects in the shop. We've got a Ford 3000 gas here. That's had some engine work done. Got to go back up with that. Got the two Farmall 140s. Got a Cub Cadet 1450 quiet line. Full hydrostatic drive, hydraulic deck lift, the whole 9 yards. Got a 1950 Ford 8N I'm going back up with. Still got to do the body work. You can see laying on the ground over there. Then that's going to be it. So I've got plenty to do. So come along with us and let's see what we can find out on these 140s. I think I'm going to start by working on the one that's complete. I have a hood and gas tank for the one on the right. The gas tank's in extremely bad shape on the inside, so I'm going to have to wash it out extremely well and try to get some of that corrosion and rust and everything out of it first. We could get a pony tank and try to start it up on that. But for now, we're going to work on this complete one here and see if we can get it going. Okay, first things first. It's Alabama, it's summertime, it's hot out here. So we're gonna get this fan going. Give us a little bit of a breeze. I'm gonna set it right here on top. That way I can work and not have a heat stroke. And I can go ahead and tell you right off, doesn't look great, but it doesn't look that bad either. I don't see any loose sediment in it. It's not shiny clean, but it's just got some surface rust, nothing bad. We could put gas in this and it should be fine. It is dry with no fuel, which is a great thing. These tractors were kept in a insulated building, so that is good. Go ahead and get this sediment bowl off and clean it out. It's got a little bit of old fuel left in it. Sometimes these balls are really hard to loosen the nut on. Been on there a long time usually without being cleaned. This guy had a washer under this one. I guess he couldn't get the nut tight enough. Didn't get it to stop leaking. When in doubt, it probably had a bad gasket. Or it's probably warped. A lot of these have gotten warped over the years. I can get a pick, but I don't think there's a gasket in that one, so that may have been the whole problem. You can see this this bowl's got some sediment in it, some trash, and definitely some old gas. I can smell it. It's just pure varnish. All right, we're gonna leave this off for the time being, because when I put fuel in it, I want to make sure I've got full flow coming out of these, the valve there, and valve works nicely. It is an original International Harvester valve, brass valve. I can tell because it has a 90-degree bend on the valve itself, where the aftermarkets are more like a T-handle. They're a lot cheaper. Oh yeah. There's one in there. Hard as a rock. no wonder he had problems with it leaking. A lot of times people don't know it. They'll shove a new gasket in there and it not seal, and that's the reason. Let's pop this distributor cap off and see what we've got going on in the distributor with the points. Rotor button doesn't look too bad. It's got a little corrosion. We can clean that up. All right, let's see, our distributor. Points are corroded. I'll clean those up as well. It doesn't look too bad in there. Nothing's frozen or frozen up. I'll be right back. I'll go get some emery cloth and in that gasket, we'll get her cleaned up. Well, I guess I'm either overconfident or I'm jumping the gun. But I went ahead and brought some gas and a nice hot battery. So I think we're going to get this one running pretty quick. And the reason I chose this battery, well, is because the way it is, it's got a go handle, and it was the cheapest one. But most importantly, this battery is a group 26, which is the size of the battery, the group size, meaning the case. So remember, any of these Farmall tractors, the offsets, whether it's a Cub, an A, Super A, 130, 100, or 140, they all take a group 26 battery, and that's what fits in the battery boxes. And in order to get it in there, you've got to be you got to have about 5 hands, and you've got to be a genie. But you basically pop the clutch pedal, raise your hydraulic linkage, pull the starter linkage back, pop the clutch pedal, slide that battery in sideways, then lift it up, and it's in. Battery box on there, you just take it off first, put it back on. A lot of these tractors, the battery boxes were removed and thrown away, so that's what you get. Anyway, I'm gonna set this battery out of the way on the ground so it can lose its charge. Here's my fuel bowl gasket. Always keep those with you. Here's my emery cloth. Now, I'm gonna run this emery cloth, I don't know. I'm gonna let the points grab it, run it about in and out about 30 times. And I'll be pulling it off to look at it and clean it. But just use a real thin screwdriver, make sure it's a clean one. Don't want to get oil or grease in there, which I'm about to do. One, 2, 3, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Done that, I'm going to dress up the edge of these points just a little bit. It's not going to be much, but just what I can see of them. And then what we're going to do next is set them, or we're going to check the setting on them. They should be set anywhere from 18 to 20 thousandths. I always put them on 19 thousandths. got a set of angled feeler gauges, a lot of times used for valve adjustments. These are perfect because this distributor's in a tight spot. You can get right in there to it. $19 thousandths. And all we got to do is we got to roll this engine over. Uh-oh, our shifter's not shifting. It's possible our shift rails are either frozen up in the shift top or it's stuck in gear and something's broken. I'll need to be pulling that off tonight for sure. But what we're going to do now is we're going to roll this engine over. You could use a hand crank. I've got one in the truck. I'm just going to go get it. This one does have a hand crank acceptable pulley on the crank. Some tractors like the 140s do not by the time they came along, but this one does because this is a early 63. So it was made back when the 100s, 130s were. It's got the pulley. It is a C123 engine for a 140. It's got the dipstick, so, and it's got the 140 pump and not the older style pump on the water pump. So this is the correct engine for it. Another giveaway is the oil fill right here on the governor. Only the 140s had that. So I digress. We're going to get in here, turn this engine over, get it on a high cam load here on the distributor, and get our points checked. We're going to call that good. Now let's get our gauge. We've got way more than 19 thousandths in there. So I'm going to get a small screwdriver. This one, no, that's too big. You get my stubby screwdriver and that should take care of that point set. My distributor's on that high cam lobe right here. Right there. So your lobes are here, here, here. It's a square block on the shaft. And what it's doing is when it spins, that's what opens and closes your points right here, that rubbing block there. So there's our gap, our point gap there. Got it set to 19 thousandths. Just stick our feeler gauge in like so. And you can see it goes in just at barely any resistance. So that's perfect. Okay. We can check our firing order going back up. But first I want to get this shift top off before I put this distributor back together. For safety reasons, we can go ahead and check the oil in this thing. Well, that looks good. Full marks there. So that looks fine. And before I pull this all the way off, I'm going to go ahead and show you, since you're standing right here. She's in neutral, so it seems. Third, nothing. Fourth, nothing. First, barely. Second, barely. It's tight. Reverse, it's tight. So I bet you if I force it, it'll go in third and fourth. There it goes. Fourth, there's fourth. So it's really tight. What it is this tractor has sat a long time. And it may not have gotten run very much. There's a bunch of old bolts right here between the fender and the transmission, and dirt, and just this tractor, it may be that the rear end, I don't know, could be, I'd have to run the casting codes. I ran the casting codes on this one, but I don't know if I did for the transmission. Anyway, it could be this is a, it's pieced together, I don't know. But this is very tight. Really, it's gonna be in the shift top. I'm sure the transmission gears are just fine. Always make sure it's in neutral before you pull the top. Makes it a lot easier to go back. Pull straight out, shift forks are right there. Now we'll see what we got. Still had a gasket on it. All right. Transmission is way over full. It's milky, which is water. I'll show you. Look at there. And we've got rust and bubbling right here on the shift rails. The forks look fine, but the rails have flaky rust on them. And the detent balls up in here are rusted a little bit. So there's your whole problem, just as I suspected. All right, so I've got my shift top sitting here. Cleaned it up in parts washer pretty good, and you can just see that rust on those shift rails there and down in the ball detents. We'll spray those good PB blaster. Spray that liberally. There we go. Nothing looks to be broken or loose. Forks look to be in really good shape, so we're going to see what she'll do. Check that transmission out. Well, the gears look fine. We got to do a little service on it. Okay. And if you'll look at the gears, the teeth, there's trash, real flaky, hard rust from this transmission just sitting like this, and it coming off that shift fork or that shift rail there on this top piece of this gear. Okay. This rear end is full of, I'm not sure if that's 85 140 or if that's grease and 90 weight and water mixed, but it is thick. All right, so you can see I've got it in all the gears. The fourth gear is the hardest. I only got it in it once. So the others are going pretty good. There's third. Here's second. Let's see, second. Well, let's see. Second, first, second, reverse. Reverse again. Second, first, third, and then can't get fourth to go. But it's also possible that once we get this thing running, ride it around for a while, get it good and hot, get some oil splashing, and we'll end up getting it in. If not, I'll replace that shift top or take it apart and clean it one. All right, so now we know she's in neutral. Rocking it, it's in neutral. We're gonna move up back onto the distributor. I'm gonna clean my hands. We're gonna get that buttoned up. And this one's got a quarter carburetor. So I know what a lot of you know about those, and that's not fun. So we'll try her and see what happens. If not, I've got a nice Zenith carburetor ready to bolt on it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this new battery in, because I want to see if I've got sparks in my points. Make sure the coil's going to be okay. It looks like a new coil, you know, a new resistor, ballast resistor. But I can tell you one thing, it doesn't have a wire hook to it. So someone's either bypassed it or unhooked it one. So we're going to have to figure that part out. Let's get this battery in and then we'll see what's going on. Like I was saying before, pull your starter rod back, starts it. If you have that, later 140s don't have it. Super A's and 100s and 132. Get your cables out of the way. Here's a wire. Looks like it could have went to that. I don't know yet. So we'll get that out of the way. All right. Hydraulic linkage is loose. I always just lift it up, just like so. Jam it up there, out of the way. You could take it off down here. Doesn't matter. Better go ahead and figure out which side you want your post, because once you get up there, you're not going to want to move it around. So I'm going to go with this side like this, and what we do is we basically just push the clutch in, and then we get our battery up there. So I'll show you. And put it in sideways just like so. Drop it in. This time I didn't have to push the clutch in. A lot of times with some batteries you have to push it in just to get it in. But that one dropped right in. You can see it'll fit once we put the battery box on there. Once we do that, get your go handle out of the way. Go ahead and put your starter rod back. So that's holding your battery in at least somewhat. Back where it was. Replace the clutch pin if you have it. Right now I don't have it unless it's in the toolbox. I'm not going to worry about it. Get your cable. That's going to be your positive. This is a negative ground system. This cable's going to the starter, so this is a positive. Go ahead and feed it back where it goes. And our negative's right over here. This is our ground. It's a nice heavy newer looking cable, that's great. I'm going to go ahead and put the negative on. You don't have to tighten them up right now, just as long as you get a good connection. As we also do, we'll do a smoke test, make sure nothing's going to catch fire or burn up. See if we have anything arcing. Good. And this tractor does have an alternator on it, so we do know for a fact it's 12 volt. Okay. So now, I don't have an ammeter, someone's oversprayed on it. We can go ahead and see if we have lights. Hey, we've got lights, look at that. Okay. I didn't bring my meter in, but what I can do is I can go ahead and we can go ahead and turn it over and see what she does. We can watch for spark. But we also need to make sure that this coil is hooked up properly, because it looks to me like here's your power wire. They got it hooked directly to the coil, but then again, we've got a ballast resistor. So either they've got the incorrect coil on there or they got it hooked up wrong. I'm not sure why they've got this thing hooked up the way they do, but let me check the polarity on the coil. With it being a negative ground system, the negative terminal on the coil should go to the distributor. And in turn, if it were positive ground system, positive will go to the distributor. So here's what they've done. They've got the positive terminal on the coil hooked to the distributor directly. And then they also have a wire going from the positive terminal of the coil to the ballast resistor on one side. The other side of the ballast resistor is open. And the negative side of the coil is going back to the key switch. Totally backwards, totally wrong. It couldn't get any worse than that. What you want is your wire coming from the key switch going to the ballast resistor, the other side of the ballast resistor going to the positive side of your coil. Then the negative side of the coil goes to the distributor. So this is totally backwards. I'm gonna have to redo it all. I might as well pull the coil off to make sure it's the proper coil. Okay, so there you can see I got the distributor all buttoned up. I got the coil rewired, fixed like it's supposed to be, where your 12 volts are coming to the resistor, the ceramic ballast resistor, and it breaks across that, goes back down to your coil. And then the negative side of the coil goes to your distributor like it should be. Couldn't find any markings on the coil whether to use the resistor or not. But I'm going to assume in this case, because it all looks like a brand new assembly, the bracket, the coil, the resistor, that it all came together to be used together. Those resistors are commonly found on Chrysler automobiles from the 60s and 70s. So that's considered a Chrysler style ballast resistor if you ever have to get one. Auto parts stores got them for $6 or $7. Basically what it is it's not a true 12 volts going to the points. It is a resistor to break that voltage down, and the coils that don't use them are just internally resisted, so you can get either one. All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check my firing order, because with all of that messed up, I will be safe to say that they could have messed the firing order up if they messed with it. Firing order is gonna be 1342 clockwise around the distributor. And usually number 1 is marked on the cap. In this case, this cap is not marked. Number 1 is usually going to be either on the top or right here on the side. You could also check it by putting the number 1 cylinder closest to the radiator on the compression stroke, top dead center, top of the stroke. Your rotor button should be pointing to number 1 if your timing's right. So I'm going to check my firing order. Number 1 should be here on the top. 3, 4, 2 clockwise around the cap. So number 1 should be going. And yes, it is all the way off. Without knowing which one number 1 is on this cap, I may have to find top dead center. But honestly, I think got a piece of tape here marking number 1 all the way down the bottom, which it's typically not at. And then if you go around it, you've got number 3, and then 4, and then 2. So he's got the right order. I don't think it's in the right spot unless somebody's pulled the distributor and turned it. So we can leave it there, see what happens, because it's marked as that being the number 1 spot. I've just never seen the actual terminal stud in this position with one being down here. I've always seen terminal stud in approximately the 4 or 5 o'clock position, and the number 1 being up here. So I don't know why they would have that off. I'm going to change it. I think number 1's here, and then we're going to see what happens. I just don't have confidence in who was working on this thing. So we're going to put number, and then number 2 up here on top. And I could be wrong. I've just seen so many of them, I feel like that's got to be it. Okay, so all we've got left to do now, hook our battery up, put some gas in it, and see what we got. Okay, so I've got gas in the tank. I've got my valve off because as expected, the fuel bowl still leaks. I should probably put that washer back under there like they had it before. But those old assemblies, it doesn't take much for them to leak. And they just better off not messing with them and just replacing them. I'm ready to hook the battery up and try it and see what we got. Haven't even touched the carburetor. It's a Carter. I don't have much faith in it, but we will see. It may run great. So haven't even seen if we got fire. I just know that we should, as long as our coil is good and our condenser and our points are clean. So using neutral. Runs smooth, idle's great. Idle set a little bit low. That could all be adjusted out. Well, I'm ready to take it for a spin. Headlights work. Stop it. Fourth gear. We got it. See how easy it starts back up. On the other one. Well, that's another successful rescue on the Farmall 140. Be sure to check out my next videos on the next one, and maybe on this one again as we fix on it and do some small things to it. So subscribe to my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, and so you don't miss any more videos. Thanks for watching.